We all know the pop culture archetype of the super-empath. This is the person who can step into a crowded room and effortlessly read minds. They seem to sense future events, absorb the emotional energy of strangers, and navigate complex social dynamics with an almost magical intuition. But the lived reality for highly sensitive individuals looks entirely different. Behind closed doors, this constant influx of emotional data produces severe subclinical social anxiety. Because they are hyper-aware of how others are evaluating them, they suffer from intense self-consciousness, blushing, and total debilitating exhaustion. This extreme sensitivity represents the human brain's predictive processing operating at the absolute limits of its evolutionary design. What feels like a gift is actually the result of a biological system tuned for high-resolution pattern recognition. To stop suffering from what feels like a supernatural haunting, we have to look under the hood. We need to understand the heavy neurological cost of reading minds and how our brains trick us into mistaking survival mechanisms for magic. This diagram shows the core mechanism of the Bayesian brain. For decades, we thought perception was passive, that we just absorbed the world from the bottom up. But the brain is an active prediction engine. It constantly sends top-down predictions to meet incoming sensory data. If there is a mismatch, it generates a prediction error, sent back up to update your mental model. Your brain's primary goal is to minimize surprise. In highly sensitive individuals, this predictive loop operates at an incredibly accelerated pace and with much higher resolution. The system is calculating thousands of tiny probabilities per second, trying to predict social outcomes or environmental shifts long before they actually happen. This extreme tuning usually has a specific origin: childhood trauma. Children who grow up in unpredictable or abusive households are forced to develop emotional hyper-vigilance. When a caregiver's mood can shift from calm to violent without warning, the child must learn to identify danger before it manifests physically. The developing brain becomes a master of micro-reading. It scans for variables that the average observer completely ignores: a slight tightening of the jaw, a sudden shift in vocal cadence, or a change in pupil dilation. They are gathering enough data to predict the next outburst. When an adult experiences a sudden, highly accurate intuition about someone's mood, they are often using a childhood threat detection system. The brain's threat center, the amygdala, has been permanently locked in the on position, processing hundreds of social cues instantly. This split-screen graphic illustrates the difference between knowing how someone feels and absorbing it. On the left, cognitive empathy uses the prefrontal cortex to deduce what someone is thinking, but on the right, affective empathy engages the limbic system, allowing you to actually share the feeling. The super-empath relies overwhelmingly on that right side. Through emotional contagion, their mirror neuron networks automatically mimic the emotional states of the people around them. Their brain is running a rapid internal simulation of the other person's mental state. Because this biological synchronization happens so fast and entirely outside of conscious awareness, the individual literally feels as though they are absorbing another person's thoughts, emotions, or energy. This bypasses logical processing entirely. The data hits the basal ganglia, triggering a rapid, visceral physical reaction long before the conscious brain can verbalize a reason for it. This is the anatomy of the gut feeling, a fast, heavy hit to the autonomic nervous system. Feeling someone's energy is an involuntary biological mirroring process. It provides incredibly accurate social data, but it also completely dissolves a person's emotional boundaries, leaving them to process the nervous system reactions of everyone in the room. If this is purely high-speed biological data processing, why does it feel so undeniably supernatural? The answer lies in a neuropsychological module called the left brain interpreter. Our brains possess a specific system dedicated solely to creating coherent narratives out of our disparate subconscious behaviors. When an intuitive leap occurs, the interpreter scrambles to find a reason for your sudden certainty. Heavily influenced by cognitive biases like apophenia, the tendency to see meaningful patterns in random noise, the interpreter will happily confabulate a magical origin story to explain a calculation your subconscious made in milliseconds. This drive for narrative consistency even colors how we perceive time and memory. When a biological misfire occurs in the medial temporal lobe, we experience déjà vu. In this decoupled familiarity glitch, the rhinal cortex signals that a scene is familiar, while the hippocampus fails to find a matching record. Because the brain can't find a logical explanation for this mismatch, the interpreter often labels it as a past life or a premonition. It is a metacognitive error, a brief electrical misfire. The brain hates ambiguity so much that it constructs a supernatural lie to fill the gap, rather than admit a biological system glitch. Running this high-resolution social monitoring system takes a massive toll. When your brain processes every shift in tone or facial expression as a potential threat, a casual dinner party is treated computationally like a life-or-death survival scenario. This U-shaped curve plots mind-reading ability against social anxiety. A total inability to read social cues leads to high anxiety, but an excess of mind-reading ability produces the exact same spike. Being hyper-aware of others' evaluations traps you in a state of severe self-consciousness. Grounding these experiences in biology creates a functional framework to reclaim mental health. Viewing a gut feeling as a rapid biological prediction gives you cognitive distance. It allows you to step back and evaluate the data. You can acknowledge the rapid shift in a room's vibe without assuming it is a premonition of disaster, helping you separate highly accurate pattern recognition from the false positives generated by old trauma. Empathy is not a mystical decree you are forced to suffer through. It is high-resolution data. By understanding the biology behind your own predictive engine, you can finally set firm boundaries, interpret the signals accurately, and turn down the volume on your mind's exhausting radar.